Hi everyone, my name is Joel and I'll be your lecturer for today's session. This is the first lecture in Debate Association Singapore's training package for primary schools, and it will introduce you to the basics of primary school debating. Take out a notebook and pen to follow this lecture very closely. Before we move on, Debate Association Singapore would like to clarify that the training package and its materials should only be distributed within schools. It is not intended to be shared with commercial entities nor reproduced for commercial purposes. There are three parts to this lecture. Firstly, on understanding the structure of a World Schools Debating Championship format debate, otherwise known as a WSDC style debate. Secondly, we'll look at the rules surrounding points of information. Lastly, we'll investigate what the team and speaker roles are in a debate. Let's first discuss the structure of a WSDC style debate. Each WSDC style debate happens between two teams, proposition and opposition. There are three main speakers and two reserve speakers in one team. The format is designed to ensure that speakers thoroughly engage with each other and is judged based on style, content, and strategy. The speaking order is as follows. First proposition goes up first, followed by first opposition, followed by second proposition and second opposition, and then third proposition and third opposition. Usually, there is a 2-minute interval between the substantive speeches and reply speeches in the physical rounds. This is meant to allow reserve speakers to confer with the main speakers and give their input to the reply speaker. For online tournaments, do clarify with the conveners on their policy for the 2-minute interval, as this can vary across online tournaments. After the 2-minute interval, the opposition reply speaker goes first, followed by the proposition reply speaker. The speaking time for each substantive speech is 3 minutes in the preliminary rounds and 4 minutes in the elimination rounds. Elimination rounds, otherwise known as break rounds or out rounds, refer to the quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals of a tournament. The reply speakers speak for 2 minutes each. All forms of communication between debaters, including reserve speakers and any member of the audience, are disallowed, be it verbal, written, or body language communication. This means you shouldn't mouth words at daddy and mummy while you are on the floor with your teammates. Props or other visual aids also cannot be used by speakers during their speeches. So, don't try to draw graphs or pie charts on the whiteboards behind you while you're speaking. You don't need those things to make a point. Use your words to convince the judges that your side should win. However, depending on the tournament you're at, time signals using hands may be permitted, but only done by reserve speakers or teachers or coaches. When in doubt, always clarify during the pre-tournament briefing. At the end of each segment of the presentation, we like to do quizzes to make sure that you've been following us closely. While there aren't any prizes for getting the correct answers, give yourself a pat on the back if you got them right. If you didn't get them right the first time, don't worry. Use this quiz as an opportunity to correct any misunderstandings. After I've read out the question, pause this video to think about the answer. When you've figured out the answer, continue playing the video. First question. How many speeches are there? The answer is 8 speeches, 6 substantive speeches and 2 reply speeches. Second question. How long are speeches in a debate? The answer is 3-minute substantive speeches in preliminary rounds and 4-minute substantive speeches in the elimination rounds. Reply speeches are 2 minutes in duration in both the preliminary and elimination rounds. Third question. Can reserve speakers communicate with main debaters during a debate? They may do so only during the 2-minute interval. They may also be allowed to do time signals depending on the tournament's rules. Fourth question. How many speakers are there on a team? There are 5 team members, 3 main speakers and 2 reserve speakers. Great, that's a wrap for the first section, everyone. Let's move on to the next section of this presentation. Now, we're going to look at the rules surrounding points of information. What is a point of information? Points of information are short interjections during a speaker's speech by a member of the other side that tests how fast and responsive the speaker on the floor is. A POI is usually a short comment or question addressed to the person currently speaking from the opposing team. For example, if I am on the opposition team, I may choose to stand up while first proposition speaker is speaking and say POI sir or POI ma'am, and the speaker on the floor can choose to accept or reject this particular POI. How long should a POI last? Try to keep it within 10 seconds so that you don't be too disruptive in the speaker's speech, but keep it to a maximum of 15 seconds if you really have to. If a speaker accepts a point of information, the speaker must ensure that the person offering the POI is given enough time to express their POI. Here are some other frequently asked questions about points of information. When can you give a POI? Speakers may offer POIs at any time between the first and last 30 seconds of the current speech. Please make sure that you offer the POI in a way that does not disrupt the speech. This is to say, wait 15 seconds after being denied before offering POIs again. If you are being too disruptive by giving POIs too frequently, the judge will call for order in the room. How many POIs should be offered or answered? As of 2019's Wits and Words Handbook, it is not compulsory to give a POI or accept a POI in the preliminary rounds of Wits and Words. As a general rule, however, you must accept at least 1 POI in your speech if your team is in the elimination rounds of Wits and Words. However, regardless of whether or not you are in the preliminary rounds or the elimination rounds, it is highly encouraged that you offer or answer POIs because it's a great opportunity to impress your judges, because judges will be tracking the POI exchanges that happen within a debate. It's quiz time again, so remember to pause the video to think about the question's answer. When you've gotten an answer, feel free to continue playing. Question number 1. What is a POI? A POI is a small interruption in a speaker's speech made by one of the opposing team debaters. Question number 2. Can reserve speakers offer POIs to the opposing team's speaker? No, they can't. Only the 3 main speakers in the debate are allowed to do so. Question number 3. Can I offer someone a POI at the 25-second mark? Think really carefully over this. No, you cannot. The first and last 30 seconds of a speech are protected time. Now try this one. Can I offer someone a POI at the 2-minute and 35-second mark in the preliminary rounds? No, you cannot. Remember that the first and last 30 seconds of a speech are protected time. Since we're talking about a speech within the preliminary rounds in the context of this question, you cannot give a POI after 2 minutes and 30 seconds. If someone offers you a POI at 2 minutes and 35 seconds, that is out of the rules. Next question. Is it compulsory to take POIs at Wits and Words? As of 2019, it is not compulsory in the preliminary rounds, but it is expected in the elimination rounds. Last question. How long should a POI last? Maximum 15 seconds. That's a wrap for this particular section. Good job, everyone, for making it this far. We're going to move on into the last section of this presentation now. The final part of this lecture will be on team and speaker roles. Make sure that you follow closely because this is quite heavy. As we've outlined earlier, there are two teams in every debate, proposition and opposition. Proposition has three roles. Firstly, they must define the motion clearly and fairly. Secondly, they must present their characterization of the status quo and arguments in favor of their case. Lastly, where it is appropriate, they should present a solution to any identified problems in a debate. Opposition has three roles too. Firstly, they must oppose the motion. Secondly, they must rebut the proposition. And thirdly, they may present any substantive arguments of their own, including proposing a counter model or a counter policy. Now that we've looked through the team role fulfillment criteria for proposition and opposition, let's take a closer look at individual speaker role fulfillment. If you are first proposition speaker, you must define the motion and explain proposition's stance on the motion. If the motion's wording requires proposition to state a policy or a model, it should be set up well in the first prop speaker. The first prop will need to deliver a case division, which is a summary of how each speaker will add to the team's case. Following the case division, the first proposition should present one or two arguments. If you are first opposition speaker, you may challenge the first prop's definition, but this is not recommended unless the definition from proposition is absurd and unreasonable with respect to the spirit of the motion. To prevent such definition challenges from occurring, students and teachers should clarify any doubts about the wording of the motion with the chief adjudicators of the tournament. First opposition will need to rebut major points brought up by the first proposition and explain opposition's stance on the motion. Similarly, first opposition should also provide a case division and present one or two arguments just like the first proposition speaker. The second speakers are then expected to firstly defend the previous speaker of their team and defend the arguments that they've presented. Additionally, they are expected to rebut the opponent's arguments as well. Additionally, they can also add on new arguments or extend on an argument provided earlier in first proposition or first opposition. Third speakers are designed to rebut everything that has been brought up by the opposing team. They are expected to also summarize and defend whatever arguments have been put out by their team. Reply speakers also summarize the debate and give reasons why their team should win, but they will not be adding new arguments or rebuttals in their speeches. Here are some additional notes for the reply speaker. Firstly, if you are a reply speaker, you cannot be the third speaker of your team. You must be either the first or second speaker for your team. The reply speakers are also in reverse order, with the opposition reply speaking first and the proposition reply speaking last. This means that after the 2-minute interval, the opposition reply speaker goes up and makes their speech first, followed by the proposition reply speaker. Neither reply speaker can introduce a new part of the team's case, so they cannot give rebuttals and they cannot give out new arguments in this speech. It will not be credited by the judge. However, you may choose as a reply speaker to raise a new example that illustrates a pre-existing argument or rebuttal that has been made in the debate, but otherwise, no new arguments. Alright everyone, good job on making it this far. This is the last quiz for today before we end this lecture. Remember to pause the video to figure out the answer before playing the video again. First question. Can reply speakers have new arguments? No, they cannot have new arguments. Next question. Can reply speakers rebut previous speeches? No, they cannot rebut previous speeches. Question number 3. Can reply speakers have new examples? Yes, as long as it is used in a way that supports a previously made rebuttal or argument in the substantive portion of the debate. The substantive portion of the debate refers to any of the speeches before the 2-minute interval. Question number 4. Who defines the motion? First proposition speaker defines the motion. Question number 5. Can any speaker challenge the definition? No. Only the first opposition speaker can challenge the definition of the first proposition. Your second and third opposition speakers cannot challenge the definition. It would be too late for them to do so. Also, do note that definition challenges are very rare and should only be done when the proposition's definition is unreasonable or absurd. Next question. Can third speakers have new rebuttals? Yes, most definitely. They should have new rebuttals because their role as a speaker is to rebut their opponents. You thought we were done, but unfortunately, we are not exactly done. This will be the last set of questions for this lecture, so stay with me, okay? Question number 7. Can third speakers have new examples? Yes, they definitely can. Question number 8. Must the second speaker always have a completely new argument? No, they don't have to have a completely new argument all the time. Sometimes they can choose to just run an additional layer to an argument that was already being made in their first speaker. This is also known as an extension. We've come to the end of this lecture, everyone. Good job on paying such close attention and diligently answering the questions on the quizzes. There were a lot of questions and you guys did really well. This is only the first lecture out of our 4-part series for the training package for primary schools. Keep a lookout for the next lecture and we'll see you again sometime soon. Good luck for your rounds.